how to make a no-sew fleece tie blanket. Now these ones are for an American Girl or other 18-inch size doll. Now because these ones I'm making for my cousins, I decided to add a little bit of an extra touch and add an initial, but this step you can skip if you don't want to. The initials I just did out of the same fleece that's on the front so that it's all matching, and then I did the thread in a nice purple. And on this one you can see that I did the same fleece, but the thread is in pink to match. So I'm going to be showing you how I did these. For this project you're going to need 2 pieces of coordinating fleece. Mine are roughly 12 by 15 inches. You're also going to need some scissors and then some scrap fleece. It can be either, it doesn't matter which fabric it is as long as it's the opposite of what side you choose to put it on. I also find it easier to print off my letter and then cut it out on the paper and then cut it out on the fleece. And then you're also going to need some thread. Now I have these 2 different shades of green, but I'm not entirely sure which one I'm going to use yet. And then I also have some pins. It makes it easier to pin your stuff down sometimes, especially when you're sewing on a letter. And then I have my embroidery hoop. Now you don't need this, but I just find it easier to embroider things when they're in this hoop because it kind of keeps it all together. Next we are going to cut out our letter that we have printed off. So I like to just cut as close to the little letter as I can. It doesn't matter if it's perfect or not. As you can see, I just finished cutting out my letter, so I'm going to tie it to this scrap piece of fleece that I have now. I'm just going to pin it down and add a couple more. Now this doesn't have to be precise or anything, I mean we're just cutting it right now. I find it easier to just kind of cut out the chunk around it and then cut more carefully. Now you can see that I have my letter all cut out, and I'm just going to remove this piece of paper from the front of my fleece. Put my pins back. And now I have this nice S-shaped piece of fleece to use. So I'm going to put it on my green, obviously. Find the prettier backside. It's a little awkwardly shaped of that, so we're going to do this. And now try to remember to leave it up a couple inches from the top and then over a couple inches from the side because you're going to have to cut to make your ties. Sometimes it gets out of shape, so you just kind of have to get it back in. Now just take your pins again and secure it down. So we have our letter nice and secured to our piece of fleece now. I'm just going to take my embroidery hoop, and I find it easier to place this down on the floor and then lay my fleece over the top of it, and then take the second part and put it inside. Now we have a nice secure holding for our letter. Then I'm going to take my needle that I'm going to use to sew. This one's a little bit thicker than I usually use, but because it's fleece it's okay. And then I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to get a nice long piece of it. I hate having to stop and get thread while I'm in the middle of my project. Now I don't worry about making the back of this very pretty because you're not going to see it. It's going to be covered up. And then you just start wherever you want. I like to start where there's a nice pin holding it down so it's not coming up. I don't like to start too close to the edge, and then I'll pull it through, and then we will start going. So I'm just going to finish up my last stitch. And now you can see that I have my S fully sewed on. Now I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to finish it off. Now, because you're working with the back side, it doesn't matter if it's pretty or not, you're not going to see it. So I just do a regular basic knot, and then I cut off my extra and take it out of my hoop. Now we are ready to start making our blanket. Now we want to make sure that our green side is face down, so make sure the S is facing down. And then we're going to take our butterfly and we're going to find the front, and we're going to make sure that the front is facing up. Now these aren't exact, but we're just gonna put them together. Make sure it's smooth out. Like so. Now you can see that the pink goes over a little bit on the edges, and that's okay. I am gonna trim it up. So we're just gonna take our scissors and we're gonna go around and we're just gonna trim it to roughly the same size. You can see that we have all of our sides trimmed up now. So now we're just going to cut a square. I like to start in my bottom right corner. I'm going to cut a square that's about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Now this doesn't have to be exactly perfect or anything, just your best guesstimation. Okay. Now we're just going to go and we're going to cut strips about 1/2 inch wide all the way down. And now make sure they're the same length as this first cut that we made. Until we get to the corner, and then we're just going to probably get, we're just going to snip it off. Now we're going to start with our ties. I like to take my tie, and now you're going to put the green over, in through, and just kind of smooth it out. And then you're going to take your bottom, and you come back around and pull it straight, and then you get it to lay nice and flat. As you can see, I have finished my first row of ties, so now I'm just going to turn my fleece so that my ties are now on the side. Now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut more ties along this. Now I'm just going to keep making ties the same size all the way down this side. Now when you get to the end of your row of cuts, just cut off this square at the end, just like you did the last time. Now you're going to come back to the beginning and you're going to start making your ties again. And we're just going to take our next side and continue making cuts like we have been doing. So we're going to go all the way down. And then when we get to the end, cut off the square. And now we're just going to go through again and make our ties. Now we are on our last side, so we're just going to continue making cuts. Except for this time, when we get to the end, we're not going to cut a square off. Because if you remember, this is where we started from, so we already cut a square from here. And we're just going to go around and make our final ties on the last side. Here you can see what the finished blanket looks like, and the opposite side with the S that we put on. And here it is with the other two that I have made. I think these all turned out pretty cute. Now I am going to grab a doll so I can show you what it looks like next to one of them. Okay, I just wanted to show you what these blankets looked like with some American Girl dolls. They turned out pretty good size for them.